That same year, my mother and father were married in this Shinto ceremony in Japan. They had met years before in Hollywood and had maintained their relationship through much of my father's first marriage. Unfortunately for my mother, my father would follow this pattern for the rest of his life.
He was not a perfect man. He was behaved.
Right.
I saw it.
Yeah, I've heard of some promiscuous things.
He'd go into a party and Majel was in that room, and in the back room he'd corner some gal, and he was involved with a lot of ladies. He was really sometimes almost like a little boy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad I wasn't married to somebody like Gene. I would have killed him.
Okay, yeah, we'll go there.
You're sure?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I know.
You're really sure?
I know half of them, at least half.
Well, okay.
And my mother knows half of them too, at least, if not all of them.
He bragged to me that within 7 days after being married to your mom, that he without messing around.
Yeah. I know my father cheated on my mother many times.
What Star Trek proves is that the much maligned common man and common woman are ready for the 23rd century now, and they are light years ahead of their petty governments and their visionless leaders.
Here we are in Lucas Valley, and it's 7:40 a.m. We all had to get up at 5:30, but I'm okay with that. George Lucas, the father of Star Wars, is going to speak to me about my father. I mean, these are the two science fiction modern-day icons. I learned that there was a definite rivalry between Star Trek and Star Wars. What's funny is that when I was a kid, I was actually a huge fan of Star Wars. I would go to see the movies over and over. I remember having actually a couple Star Wars birthday cakes. My father passed away when I was 17, and I knew him as Dad, but I never really understood Star Trek. And it wasn't until after he passed away that I really realized that Star Trek had touched a number of people. And I was wondering, did it have any sort of influence, or did you just have a general interest in it?
Yeah, I went to a few Star Trek conventions back in the old days before I did Star Wars. I was allowed to do things like that. I mean, I started writing Star Wars sort of in the heyday of the syndication part of Star Trek.
Daily has screens up too. Take all action necessary to protect the ship.
I think the thing I was attracted to the most about Star Trek is that it completely got rid of all the mundane, boring angle of real space and just said, well, let's just go out and go where no one else dared to go. Star Trek and Star Wars are not reality shows, they're imagination shows. The story is really the thing that makes it work. And in the beginning with Star Trek, that's all there was story. And that's what made it compelling. Gene Roddenberry took the ideas and made them so he could put them on television, which is really has no resources at all.
We did the show in 6 days, and that's the equivalent of doing a half a motion picture every week, which is, our schedule was 12 to 14 hours a day, and the production staff worked 6 days a week.
Gene Roddenberry's vision in the beginning was very specific, and it was oriented toward television, and even Star Wars was oriented toward what I could actually get away with, you know, what I could do, given the amount of resources I had and the amount of technology I had available. So it sort of limits how you scale the thing. Well, it was, you know, what I was doing was more space opera than sort of science fiction. Star Trek was more sort of intellectual mystery. It wasn't action-oriented. Star Wars was action-oriented.
I like Star Wars. It was the young King Arthur growing up and slaying the evil emperor finally. And there's nothing wrong with that kind of entertainment. Everything doesn't have to create a philosophy for you for your whole life. You can also have fun.
Now, what do you think about the whole Star Wars versus Star Trek, the Enterprise versus the Millennium Falcon, and you see these websites?
Yeah, I kind of stay away from the the fan sites and everything. And I couldn't even contemplate what would happen if you put the Enterprise up against the Millennium Falcon. You know, it's an intellectual exercise,
There you go.
which you know, could have any outcome you want.